Hello and welcome to the Dustin and Eric Podcast Show, brought to you by Mimosa Networks. Hi, I'm Dustin.
And I'm Eric.
Today we're on
47.
episode number 13, Cabling and Grounding. Making sure you don't fry your equipment and that you negotiate in 1 gig. Today's special guests, again, Jeff Jones and Art Feldman.
Hey guys, good to see you.
Hi, Art.
Thanks for coming back to the
Eric,
show.
Jeff.
I'm surprised we haven't scared you guys away yet. So
It takes a lot more than that.
Okay, well, I'm sure we can make something happen for you. So jumping in here, today's main course, cabling and grounding. So you can see here on the table, we have several different coils of cable. We have Cat 5 unshielded cable, or Cat 5e unshielded cable, also known as UTP. We have Cat 5e shielded, which is also known as STP. We have some Cat 6 unshielded cable, and then some Cat 6 shielded cable.
Yep.
So the biggest thing here is the Cat 5e. It doesn't have the center shielding or the center plastic part.
The spline or the
spline,
dielectric.
which is used to keep the cable pairs apart. Do you want to explain why?
Right, but with the dielectric or the spleen in there, we do. And let's take that. Well, here, let's back up. Let's take the unshielded 5e right here. So what speeds are we going to get with this? Also,
Well,
here's the 5e unshielded conventional twist.
anything 5e should reach up to a gig.
A gig, and we can maintain that at say 100 meters, maybe a little better, but we always say 100 meters, about 328 feet. Okay, so this 5e doesn't have the spline or the dielectric. And a dielectric is generally, it can be air, a glass, or some kind of PVC separation between twisted pair. You'll see it. We have it in coaxial cable, and there's a dielectric air guide in RF cables. So there's no physical thing. It's just air between the center conductor and the shield, etc. And this stuff here, so there's no dielectric or, again, spline on this.
Right.
So we can see all 4 pairs, and any noise that's brought in or ingress of noise that comes into this cable will be actually canceled out in the twisted pair. And the hierarchy generally is blue, orange, green, brown, and that's not the wiring convention, the 568B, 468A, etc. But that's the hierarchy of twists per inch. Blue, orange, green, brown, and we see more twist as we go in the colors blue, and then orange a little bit less, brown, and then green. You'll see per inch the different twist rates, and those are different for velocity and noise canceling functions.
All right, so before we move on, we have these 4 cables here. Cat 6 is the lowest on the list that you want to use, and we'll explain why right now. So, Art, if you hold this up here so the camera can see it. So this cable has, of course, the center spline we talked about and 4 twisted pair, but there's no foil shielding. So the issue with Cat 6 to Cat 6 shielded is that the Cat 5e, it doesn't have the spline, so any ingress of outside interference will be canceled out by the electromagnetic field that it creates. With this, the spline in the middle here, it keeps that from happening on the pairs. So any ingress of noise, there won't be an electromagnetic field to help cancel that out. So you'll have more noise on Cat 6 unshielded than you will on any other Cat cable here on this table. So if you didn't have this spline in here, then that wouldn't be an issue, but then it wouldn't really be Cat 6. So with the Cat 6 shielded cable, so on this Cat 6 cable here, you have the spline, but you also have the foil shielding as well.
Will that maintain, since it's a 6 and above, that'll maintain, say, up to 10 gig speeds?
I believe it's also 1 gig. Now, if you had Cat 7 or this Cat 6A stuff, maybe so.
I guess you have to look at it. Look
but,
at the specifications.
But for the stuff on this table, everything's up to a gig.
Oh, okay.
So because of the shield here, that will help keep the outside interference from interfering with your cabling. So you don't have to have that electromagnetic field to help cancel out noise because of the shielding. So that's why Cat 6 shielded is much better than Cat 6. And even Cat 5e or E-shielded is better than Cat 6. So, of course, number one on the list that you should use is Cat 6 shielded, which is what these two guys here always recommend. That's what Eric and I always recommend. But if you don't have it, you can always potentially use Cat 6 shielded or Cat 5e shielded.
Right.
But if you start having issues, these two guys, again, are going to tell you to replace your cable and do Cat 6 shielded. Anyway, you guys, I'm sure, have plenty of stories or plenty of experience with people not using shielded cabling and having issues. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that?
So right now, our customers actually are using the shielded cabling. What I'm noticing, and probably Jeff is noticing the same, not everyone is actually using a metal connector. They'll use a plastic RJ45 connector, and a lot of them don't know how to actually use the drain wire, and just leaving it, either taking it out or not utilizing it. And the plastic connector doesn't really have an effect. So what we support from the most perspective is the Cat 6 shielded with using the drain wire and a metal RJ45 connector.
Yeah.
So you get the full circuit and properly done. So yeah, so I mean that's basically it. So we're the issue that we're seeing is not having the full doing it all the ways we're recommending with the sheathing, with the drain wire, and with the metal connector. Also, when you're connecting to a C5 or one of our other products that have a plastic PoE port, what is the need of having a metal connector? There isn't one, so that's why we recommend using a NID, and that provides the entire circuit of metal to metal RJ45 connection. Yeah. So that's what I've noticed. I'm sure Jeff's probably there's something similar. Or
Yeah, I think it's really important to make sure that you are using end-to-end metal termination just for that very purpose of keeping the signal out or the signal in and the interference out. The metal connectorized RJ45, you can pick those up pretty much anywhere. Just make sure that you get ones that are rated for Cat 6.
Yep. Also on the Cats, I've noticed that this 5E here has a stranded conductor. This stuff, usually it's 23, 20, or 24 gauge is typical of all the Cat series. This is stranded. This stuff's really hard to use. You ever use this? It's really hard to terminate. It could be a challenge. And most of the stuff you get on the market's a solid conductor. That's easy. And another thing we want to make sure that you purchase is a solid copper conductor. Some of this is a copper core. What's the term again? I forget the term.
Copper clad.
Copper clad. So
Yeah.
you've got maybe some kind of an aluminum conductor with
Don't use that.
with a copper coating over the top. It's not proper. It's very brittle as well.
So it's kind of like what we're showing here on the screen.
You have something on the screen.
So we have two cables here. One that's a legit cable manufacturer compared to a knockoff cable manufacturer. So some knockoff cables, they don't even twist the pairs. So it's pretty much just straight cable and a jacket. So you lose your magnetic field that we were talking about earlier. It's just a straight cable. So
noise reduction potentials.
Yeah, so you're just bringing in a lot of noise on the line and slowing your speed significantly on that.
Actually, if you have just two wires like that aren't twisted, it's just in parallel, that's just susceptible to all kinds of noise. Remember, it could be 5 of these run in parallel for several hundred feet. There might be 3 dozen different conductors, low voltage, under 60 volt conductors like this stuff, just going. And there's going to be crosstalks. There's going to be a lot of stuff. These things are running by ceilings and along electrical circuits, and hopefully perpendicular to other conductors. And we just want to keep all the noise out as best we can.
So I know we always mention Shireen, but you don't have to use Shireen. But just make sure you're using a reputable brand of cable. There's several brands out there. They're all decent cable, but make sure you check and see your box and stuff. Make sure it doesn't look like it's some knockoff box or anything like that. Because if it is, don't even use it. Send the stuff back. Make sure your distributor or reseller is giving you genuine cable.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time.
Yep.
So do you guys have any other stories or anything you want to talk about with cabling?
No, I think you hit it right on. Just make sure that you're not compromising quality and price. I mean, if you have a top-notch wireless system and you have low-grade cabling, then you just built a low-grade wireless network. So don't let that be the weak link of your network.
Any issues with, say, RJ45EZ? We've got the tools. We have. We'll see the ice cubes or the RJ45 connectors. You want to look at that stuff too. Those EZs might be good for indoor, and in temperature controlled environments. But using EZ with the exposed copper on the ends into a specific device, that may you may see rust or some oxidation in there ahead of time.
So what about putting dielectric on that?
I'll put some non-conductive super lube or grease. Yeah, well, we do that in the field for all our radio points when we plug in. I'm sure that would retard or keep the cable from oxidizing sooner than it might, but generally I don't like to use the EZ or the feed-through type of terminations for outdoor field use.
Well, there's tons of people out there who use it, so
I'm sure absolutely.
They'll fight you.
preference,
And I know there will be. Yeah.
At that point, it's just preference.
So cost, cost is an issue for all deployments, right? So
Right.
So customers will say, so if I'm using it for Cat6 shielded outdoors, why do I need to use Cat6 shielded indoors? Couldn't I just use a Cat5? Couldn't I just use a Cat6 for indoor use? If it's only going to remain indoors, I'm going from my PoE to my network or to my direct device. What do I need to use shielded cable?
Again, there's other low voltage. There's data. There's there might be control lines that there's other services that are in the walls going vertical up through. There's some plenum needs for vertical up between floors. There also might be with parallel to other connectors that are with other systems or networks. You might have a bunch of these wires, in a bundle, running together.
So what if it's just going in a closet and going directly into my network switch device?
I think if you know where the cable ends and begins, that's your stuff. You've terminated everything at both ends fine, and I think that should be fine.
Yeah, it's kind of personal preference. But if you're running it along a bunch of AC powers, then you definitely want to either cross it, you go
perpendicular to that stuff.
Or you need to make sure you have
can.
decent shielded cable, and even then, you still might bring in some kind of interference on the line.
Okay,
so.
that's a good point.
So anyway, I guess we're gonna leave it here, guys. So thanks for joining us on the cabling portion of our episode, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe or follow button to stay up to date with our latest podcast, which will be available on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud.